My boyfriend secretly planned to take his daughter from her mom and move her into our guest room without telling me a thing. When I got suspicious and called his ex-wife, she revealed the truth. There were no custody changes, no agreements, nothing. He had been lying to everyone, me, his ex, and even his own daughter. I need some clarity on this situation because my significant other, Randall, 32 male, and I, 26 female, have been caught in a continuous disagreement for several weeks. We've been a couple for 3 years and recently purchased our first home together. The acquisition is scheduled for next month, and we're both quite enthusiastic about finally establishing our own residence. Randall has a daughter, Gloria, 6 female, from a prior relationship. Gloria primarily resides with her mother but spends every other weekend and select holidays with us. During summer breaks, her visits typically lasts approximately 2 weeks in total. I want to emphasize that I deeply care for Gloria. She's a delightful child, and I enjoy her presence when she's here. This is where the complication began. Our new residence boasts 4 bedrooms, 1 primary suite for us, and 3 smaller secondary rooms. Randall and I had already decided that one of the smaller rooms would become my artistic workspace. As I operate from home as a freelance graphic designer, another room, we concurred, would serve as Randall's home office, given his side consulting work. That leaves a single bedroom remaining. Randall automatically presumed this would be Gloria's dedicated space. When he informed Gloria about the move, he assured her she would have her own special room, complete with her own bed, playthings and everything. Gloria became very excited and began discussing her preferred wall colors and bed style. I later conveyed to Randall that I was uneasy about reserving an entire room exclusively for Gloria. My reasoning is that she is only with us about 15% of the time, if that. For the remainder of the year, that room would simply remain unoccupied when we could be utilizing it for other purposes. My parents reside about 4 hours away and visit us multiple times annually. Randall's brother stays with us when he's in town for work. My sister occasionally needs a place to stay when she's between apartments. I proposed we convert it into a proper guest room with a comfortable bed and dresser, and Gloria could occupy it during her visits. We could even store some of her toys and attire there to ensure her comfort. But I don't wish for it to be exclusively Gloria's domain, with her possessions dominating the entire area. Randall became annoyed, asserting I was being unreasonable. He stated, Gloria needs to feel she has a genuine place within our household, not merely a transient guest room where she is permitted to sleep occasionally. He mentioned that at 6 years old, she is already navigating the complexities of her parents living separately and transitioning between 2 homes. And having her own room would provide her with stability and a sense of true belonging with us. I attempted to clarify that it's not about Gloria's sense of belonging, it's about being pragmatic with our available area. We are both in our late 20s and early 30s. We have visiting friends, family, who stay over, and we might wish to utilize that room for alternative functions later on. What if we decide to have a child in a few years? Then we would be compelled to reassign Gloria's room to our child, which would be far more disruptive than simply having it function as a guest room from the outset. Randall suggested we could address the baby situation if and when it materializes. He offered to place a futon in his office for visitors, but I highlighted that his office is rather small and already cluttered with his desk and filing cabinets. It wouldn't offer a comfortable sleeping arrangement for anyone. We've been engaging in this identical discussion for 3 weeks now. Randall believes I am self-centered and not prioritizing Gloria's requirements. I believe he is being impractical and not considering the actual utilization of the space. Neither of us desires to yield. The truth is, I grew up in a household with 4 children, and my parents consistently ensured we had provisions for visitors. My mother always maintained that having a designated guest room demonstrates hospitality and makes people feel welcome in your residence. I wish to be able to accommodate guests appropriately and not have to inform my parents, or Randall's relatives, that they must sleep on a sofa or air mattress because we've given over our sole guest room to someone who uses it only a few weekends a month. I also reflect on Gloria's current perspective. She has her own room at her mother's house, where she lives most of the time. She isn't lacking personal space or a private area. This would simply be an additional room at our home that she could use during her visits. I fail to understand why it must be exclusively hers when we have so many other potential uses for it. Randall remarked, I don't comprehend the experience of children whose parents are separated. He added, Gloria always feels as though she's visiting everywhere and never truly possesses a permanent home. He desires her to perceive our house as genuinely her home too, not just a temporary lodging. I can grasp his viewpoint, but I also believe he is being excessively sentimental about this. Gloria is 6 years old. As long as she has a cozy place to sleep and some of her belongings present, she will be fine. She doesn't require an entire room exclusively for her that remains vacant for the majority of the year. We are scheduled to commence our move next month, and this issue remains unresolved. The tension between us is escalating considerably. Randall has begun making remarks, suggesting I apparently don't care for Gloria as much as I claim. I've begun to wonder if he prioritizes Gloria's sentiments over establishing a practical living environment together. I love Randall, and I desire this to succeed, but I also believe I am being rational here. We are adults who need to consider how to efficiently use our dwelling. We have other individuals in our lives besides just Gloria who might require a place to stay. I don't believe wanting a guest room renders me a bad person or signifies a lack of care for his daughter. Am I being unreasonable in this situation? Should I simply concede and permit Randall to convert the room into Gloria's bedroom, even though she will scarcely use it? Or am I correct that we should maintain it as a flexible guest room that Gloria can utilize during her stays? Update 1. I posted a couple of weeks ago regarding the disagreement Randall and I were having about whether to grant his daughter Gloria her own room in our new residence. Well, circumstances have grown far more intricate since then. Firstly, I should mention that we did ultimately relocate into the house. We essentially had to finalize a decision about the room arrangement because we needed to order furnishings and prepare everything. Randall continued to insist that Gloria required her own room, and I persisted in advocating for a guest room. Eventually, I agreed to a compromise. We arranged the room as a guest room with a comfortable queen bed and dresser, but we also acquired a small bookshelf and toy box for Gloria's belongings. Randall was not pleased, but he consented. Gloria came to stay with us for the initial weekend after our move. When Randall showed her the room, she appeared enthusiastic about the large bed and the playthings we had obtained for her. She didn't seem bothered that it wasn't specifically labeled as her room. She simply appeared content to have a designated area for her possessions. But then, something occurred that completely altered everything. On Sunday morning, when Gloria was scheduled to return to her mother's home, Randall received a phone call. I could hear his increasing agitation as he uttered phrases like, "What do you mean, you can't take her? And this is not what we agreed on." After he concluded the call, he informed me that Gloria's mother, Sarah, 28 female, had chosen to prolong a work trip and would not return for another week. She desired Gloria to stay with us for the entire week instead of just the weekend. Randall assented without even consulting me first. I was quite exasperated because this was entirely unforeseen. I had client meetings scheduled at home that week, and having a 6-year-old present would complicate my work. However, Randall stated he couldn't exactly refuse to care for his own daughter. Gloria ended up staying with us for 9 consecutive days. During that period, I began noticing aspects that genuinely bothered me. Gloria would leave her toys and clothing scattered throughout the guest room, and also across the rest of the house. Randall didn't seem to perceive this as an issue, but I prefer to maintain our home in an organized and clean state. More significantly, I realized the extent to which having Gloria there full-time reshaped the dynamic of our household. Randall's focus was entirely on her. He would return from work and immediately begin engaging with Gloria or assisting her with activities. We barely had any time to converse as a couple, even in the evenings after Gloria had retired. Randall was exhausted and merely wished to watch television. When Sarah finally arrived to collect Gloria, I articulated these concerns to Randall. I conveyed that while I was pleased we could assist in an emergency, I hoped this would not become a regular occurrence. I informed him that having Gloria present for over a week had made it challenging for me to work and for us to preserve our relationship. Randall became defensive, stating I was complaining about spending time with his daughter. He asserted that emergencies arise and we need to be adaptable. He also mentioned that if I was genuinely committed to being a part of his family, I should be pleased to have Gloria around more, not less. That's when he revealed something shocking. He informed me that he had been contemplating requesting more custody time with Gloria. He stated that now that we possessed a larger home, it would be an opportune moment to have Gloria stay with us more frequently. Perhaps every week instead of every other week, or even for extended periods during the summer. I inquired why he hadn't discussed this with me before we acquired the house. If I had been aware of his plans to have Gloria present much more often, it would have entirely altered my perspective on our living arrangement. Randall stated he hadn't been certain about it until we actually moved in and observed how well Gloria adjusted to the new house. Then he uttered something that truly caught me off guard. He told me that during the week Gloria was staying with us, she had inquired why she had to sleep in the guest room instead of having her own room, as she does at her mother's house. Randall said he didn't know how to explain to her that I didn't want her to have her own room. This agitated me because that's not what I had communicated at all. I never stated I didn't want Gloria to have her own room. I said I desired the room to serve multiple purposes, which it was doing perfectly well. Gloria had been perfectly content sleeping there and keeping her toys there. However, Randall stated that after spending a full week with Gloria, he realized the importance of her feeling like she has a permanent place in our home. He expressed his desire to properly convert the guest room into Gloria's room, with her own furniture and decorations, especially if he was going to pursue increased custody time. I informed him that this felt like he was altering the terms after we had already reached an agreement. We had compromised on designating it as a guest room that Gloria could use, and that arrangement had been functioning effectively. Now he wished to change it because Gloria had simply posed a question about why it wasn't exclusively her room. Randall accused me of being obstinate and not considering Gloria's best interests. He stated that if I truly cared about her, I would want her to feel completely at home with us. He also pointed out that if he obtains more custody time, Gloria would be utilizing the room much more than 15% of the time, thus rendering my original argument about the room remaining vacant irrelevant. I asked him what would transpire when we had visitors, and he suggested they could use the futon in his office or we could acquire an air mattress for the living room. I highlighted that this was precisely what I had been trying to prevent, having to make our guests uncomfortable due to a lack of suitable accommodations for them. The argument intensified, and Randall accused me of being envious of the attention he dedicates to Gloria. He stated I was behaving as though Gloria were an inconvenience rather than a family member. I told him that was unjust and that I had been nothing but welcoming to Gloria. But then Randall uttered something that truly stung. He suggested that perhaps I wasn't prepared to be in a relationship with someone who has a child. He said that being a step-parent sometimes entails prioritizing the child's needs, and I wasn't demonstrating a willingness to do that. We ended up having a massive argument, and Randall slept on the sofa that night. The following morning, he apologized for suggesting I wasn't ready to be a step-parent, but he did not relent on his desire to transform the room into Gloria's room. He stated this was profoundly important to him and expressed hope that I would support him in it. Now I am questioning if Randall had been orchestrating this all along. Perhaps he agreed to the guest room compromised merely to appease me, knowing he would advocate for Gloria's room again once we were settled into the house. It feels as though he manipulated the situation to achieve his desired outcome. I also cannot cease pondering what this signifies for our future. If Randall desires Gloria to be present more frequently, and if he intends to make unilateral parenting decisions without consulting me, what will happen when we have our own children? Will I have any input in how we manage our household, or will Randall simply determine what is best and expect my compliance? Presently, we are barely communicating. Randall continues to sleep on the sofa, and I have been staying in the guest room. Gloria came to visit us again last weekend, and it was incredibly awkward. She kept inquiring about her new bedroom, and neither Randall nor I knew what to tell her. I am seriously contemplating whether this relationship will endure. I love Randall, but I cannot be with someone who makes significant decisions without involving me and then attempts to manipulate me into conforming. Furthermore, I cannot be in a situation where I feel I have no authority over how our household operates. I am starting to wonder if I made an error purchasing this house with Randall. Perhaps we should have engaged in these discussions about his expectations for Gloria's role in our household before making such a substantial commitment together. Update 2. Much has transpired since my last update. The situation involving Randall and Gloria has grown significantly more complex, and I've uncovered information that entirely reshaped my perception of this entire conflict. Following my previous post, Randall and I continued to debate the room situation. He persisted in asserting that Gloria required her own room, particularly since he was planning to seek increased custody time. I consistently highlighted that we had reached an agreement about maintaining it as a guest room, and he was attempting to alter the terms after we had already moved in. Things reached a critical point 3 weeks ago when Gloria visited us for the weekend. On Saturday morning, I discovered Randall in the guest room with Gloria, measuring the walls and discussing where her bed should be positioned and her preferred paint color. He was behaving as if it were a foregone conclusion that this would become her room. I pulled Randall aside and informed him that we needed to have a serious discussion about this. He stated there was nothing to discuss because he had already made up his mind. He asserted that Gloria was his daughter, and if I couldn't accept her need for her own space in our home, then perhaps I wasn't the right person for him. I was astonished that he would utter such a statement. I told him that threatening our relationship would not coerce me into agreement. I also pointed out that I had never stated Gloria couldn't have space in our home. I had simply desired the room to be functional for multiple purposes, which it was doing perfectly well. That's when Randall revealed something that greatly clarified why he was so unyielding about this. He shared that when he was a child, his parents divorced when he was 8 years old. He spent weekends at his father's apartment, but his father never made him feel truly at home there. His father kept all of Randall's possessions in a cardboard box in the closet, and Randall had to arrange a sleeping bag on the sofa every time he visited. Randall stated he had promised himself that if he ever had a child, he would ensure that child felt welcome and permanently situated in both of their homes. He stated that providing Gloria with her own room wasn't just about the room itself, it was about demonstrating to her that she was a full member of our family. not merely a transient guest. I understood the profound importance of this to Randall, but I also felt as though he was completely disregarding my concerns. I informed him that I supported Gloria feeling welcome in our home, but I also needed to feel that I had some influence over how we utilized our space. Randall asserted I was being self-centered and that Gloria's needs should take precedence over my desire for a guest room. He stated that if my parents or his brother required a place to stay, they were adults, capable of making alternative arrangements, but Gloria was a child who needed stability. We ended up having another significant argument, and I decided to stay at my sister's house that night to de-escalate the situation. While there, I contacted Randall's brother, Mark, 35 male, to gain some insight. Mark has always been quite candid with me, and I wanted to hear from someone who knew Randall intimately. Mark disclosed something that utterly stunned me. Randall had been discussing acquiring more custody of Gloria for over a year, long before we even began house hunting. According to Mark, Randall had been planning to petition Sarah for a modification in their custody agreement, but he wanted to wait until he had a more stable living situation to present to the court. Mark stated Randall had specifically selected our house because it possessed sufficient bedrooms for Gloria to have her own space. He had been planning all along to convert the room into Gloria's room and had only temporarily agreed to the guest room concept to circumvent conflict with me. I was incensed upon hearing this. It signified that Randall had been deceiving me for months about his true intentions. He had allowed me to believe we were collaboratively making decisions about the house when, in reality, he had already determined how he wished to utilize the space before we even moved in. When I confronted Randall about this, he did not deny it. He stated he hadn't informed me about his custody plans, because he wasn't certain if Sarah would agree to them. And he didn't want me to worry about something that might not materialize. He said he had been planning to tell me once he discussed it with Sarah and his lawyer. I questioned why he had permitted me to argue about the guest room for weeks when he knew he was pursuing more custody all along. He claimed he had hoped I would come to appreciate Gloria's perspective and independently agree to the room. This felt like a profound betrayal. Randall had been making significant decisions about our future without including me in the process. He had been manipulating our discussions to achieve his objectives instead of being forthright about his plans. But then I discovered something even more unsettling. I decided to contact Sarah myself to inquire about Randall's custody intentions. I had met Sarah a few times at Gloria's school events, and we had always maintained polite interactions. I believed she deserved to know what Randall was planning, especially since it would impact her schedule with Gloria. Sarah was surprised to hear from me but was willing to converse. When I informed her of Randall's intentions to request more custody time, she became very quiet. Then she disclosed something that provided a completely different understanding of this entire situation. Sarah stated that Randall had already approached her about altering their custody arrangement, but not in the manner he had described to me. According to Sarah, Randall had asked her if she would be willing to allow Gloria to stay with us during the week and only visit Sarah on weekends. He had claimed that Gloria would be better off in our house because we had more space and a superior school district. Sarah had refused because she did not wish to relinquish that much time with her daughter. She said Randall had become enraged and informed her that he was going to take her to court to obtain more custody whether she agreed or not. He had asserted that now that he had a stable home with me, he had a better chance of achieving his goal. Sarah also shared that Randall had been telling Gloria that she would be living with us more frequently and have her own special room at our house. Gloria had been asking Sarah when she would be moving to Daddy's house with a large bedroom. Sarah stated she had been trying to explain to Gloria that nothing was finalized yet, but Gloria continued to talk about her new room and her excitement. This made me realize that Randall had been making promises to Gloria about matters that were not even resolved yet. He had been raising her expectations about having her own room and spending more time with us without even checking with me or finalizing anything with Sarah. When I confronted Randall about my conversation with Sarah, he became defensive, stating I had no right to contact Gloria's mother behind his back. He asserted I was interfering with his relationship with his daughter and his co-parenting arrangements. I told him that I had every right to know what he was planning, especially since it directly impacted our living situation and our relationship. I stated I felt as though he had been deceptive and manipulating both me and Gloria to achieve his desires. Randall claimed he had only been attempting to do what was best for Gloria and that sometimes that necessitated making difficult decisions without consulting everyone involved. He stated that as Gloria's father, he had the right to pursue increased custody time, and I should be supporting him instead of undermining him. I recognized that Randall and I held fundamentally divergent concepts regarding how to make decisions within our relationship. He seemed to believe that he could make significant choices about our household and our future, and then simply inform me after the fact. I needed to be included in the decision-making process, especially for matters that affected both of us. Presently, we are barely speaking to each other. Randall has been sleeping in his office, and I've been staying in the guest room. Gloria came to visit us last weekend, and it was exceptionally uncomfortable. She repeatedly inquired about her new bedroom, and neither Randall nor I knew what to tell her. I am seriously contemplating whether this relationship will function. I love Randall, but I cannot be with someone who makes major decisions without involving me and then attempts to manipulate me into conforming. Furthermore, I cannot exist in a situation where I feel I have no influence over how our household operates. Update 3. I need to share what transpired after my last update because this entire situation has finally reached a resolution, though not the one I anticipated. After I discovered that Randall had been planning to pursue more custody of Gloria for over a year without my knowledge, I began to question every aspect of our relationship. I spent a considerable amount of time contemplating whether I could trust him to be truthful with me about significant future decisions. I decided to propose that we try couples counseling to address our communication challenges. Randall agreed, but I could perceive he believed the issue was simply my reluctance to accept his daughter. Not that he had been making unilateral decisions about our shared life. We attended 3 sessions together. During those sessions, it became evident that Randall and I held very different expectations for how our relationship should operate. Randall seemed to believe that because Gloria was his child, he should have the ultimate authority in any decisions concerning her, including decisions about our living space and household arrangements. He felt that seeking my opinion was polite, but ultimately he intended to do what he thought was best for Gloria regardless of my input. I attempted to explain that when 2 individuals purchase a home together and intend to build a life together, both individuals should have input into major decisions. I stated that while I understood Gloria's needs were important, my needs and the needs of our relationship were also significant. The counselor asked Randall how he would react if I made a major decision about our home or our future without consulting him. Randall responded that it would be different because Gloria was not my biological child, so I shouldn't have equal say in decisions concerning her. That's when I realized that Randall did not perceive me as an equal partner in our relationship. He viewed me as someone who was merely accompanying him while he made the crucial decisions about his and Gloria's lives. During our 3rd counseling session, Randall finally admitted that he had purchased the house with the specific intention of having Gloria live with us more frequently. He stated he had been planning to seek primary custody, not merely increased visitation time. He desired Gloria to reside with us during the week and visit Sarah on weekends, which was the inverse of their current arrangement. When I asked him why he hadn't informed me of this before we bought the house, he claimed he hadn't wanted me to be anxious about it until he knew if it was going to materialize. He also said he had thought that once I observed how seamlessly Gloria integrated into our home, I would naturally desire her to be there more often. I pointed out that this would fundamentally alter our living situation and the dynamic of our relationship. Having Gloria with us full-time would essentially mean we would be a family of 3, not a couple with a child who visits occasionally. This was a monumental shift that should have been discussed before we made any significant commitments. Randall expressed his incomprehension as to why I was making such a significant issue of it. He stated that if I loved him and Gloria, I should be pleased about the prospect of them spending more time together. The counselor inquired about my feelings regarding the possibility of Gloria residing with us most of the time. I responded that while I cared for Gloria, I had entered into a relationship with Randall as a couple, and having a child present full-time would fundamentally change our relationship in ways I was unsure I was prepared for. Randall became agitated and asserted I was being selfish and that Gloria should be the priority. He stated that if I wasn't willing to place Gloria's needs first, then I wasn't ready to be in a relationship with a parent. After that session, I spent a considerable amount of time reflecting on the type of life I truly desired. I realized that Randall was correct about one thing: I was not prepared to be a full-time step-parent to a 6-year-old. I had believed I was simply dating someone who had a child. But Randall was seeking someone to assist him in raising his daughter. These are both legitimate desires, but they were incompatible with each other. Randall required a partner who was ready to prioritize Gloria's needs and function as a co-parent. I needed a partner who saw me as an equal in our relationship, and included me in significant decisions. 2 weeks ago, I informed Randall that I believed we should end our relationship. He was not surprised. He stated he had been contemplating the same thing because it was clear that I wasn't prepared to be the kind of step-parent Gloria required. We discussed the house, since we had both contributed funds toward the down payment and closing costs. We needed to determine a course of action. Randall expressed his desire to keep the house because it would provide stability for Gloria, particularly if he were to pursue increased custody. I consented to allow him to acquire my share of the house. It meant incurring a financial loss, but I wished to move forward with my life and not be bound to Randall through a shared mortgage. We finalized the details with an attorney, and the paperwork should be completed next week. I vacated the house last weekend. Randall assisted me with packing, and we were able to maintain civility toward each other. I believe we both recognized that we had sought different outcomes from the relationship, and neither of us was wrong for our desires. Gloria visited while I was packing my belongings. She inquired why I was moving out, and I explained to her that sometimes adults need to reside in different places, but that didn't signify anything negative had occurred. She seemed to accept this explanation quite readily. Randall informed me that he had already commenced the process of transforming the guest room into Gloria's bedroom. He said Gloria was excited about selecting new furniture and paint colors. He also mentioned he had filed paperwork to request a modification in his custody arrangement with Sarah. I am currently staying with my sister while I search for a new apartment. It's been an adjustment, but I believe I made the correct choice. I learned a great deal about what I require in a relationship and the kind of life I wish to construct. I do not regret the time I spent with Randall and Gloria. Gloria is a wonderful child, and Randall is a good father who desires what is best for his daughter. However, we were not compatible as partners, and it is better that we realized that now rather than after we had married or had children together. I hope Randall is able to achieve the custody arrangement he desires with Sarah, and I hope Gloria gets to have her own room that brings her happiness. As for me, I am looking forward to a fresh start and finding someone who shares my vision for what a partnership should embody.